Good afternoon, party people. We are here for more F1 2021 action. About to get started here real soon. And we have just a few minutes before race time. So as such, let's go ahead and get started with our track guide today. Why do I feel like there's not going to be any audio with this already? Yeah, probably not. Kind of last minute today, guys. I apologize. Had real world stuff going, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and make that transition and get this started, and I will see what I need to do to get you guys some audio. But it looks like we should be okay.
Hello everyone, my name is Trifium and welcome back to another Misfits Racing League F1 2021 guide. Of course, we're here in Australia. It is around Albert Park. We have 16 turns of intensity to take you through, and who else to take you through them than Dayson. Of course, he's in his Williams once again, taking us down into turn 1 and 2. A very fast section of circuit here. Of course, Albert Park, a very fast circuit in itself, utilizing the park section here in Melbourne. And now we have, of course, turns 3 and 4 utilizing the inside curbing on the right hand, and of course a little bit of the curbing on the exit through turn 4 into turns 5, of course, and now coming through into the 6-7. This is very important to utilize as much of this curbing without invalidation, both on entry and exit. Now riding through along into, of course, turns 9 and 10. This is very important to get right here, as you don't want to take too much of these curbs either. You can invalidate or you can unsettle your car, pushing yourself off track into a wall. It can be very, very unfortunate. Now we come through into the very high speed chicane of 11 and 12, and this is also a very, very fast section of circuit. Very easy to invalidate or unsettle the car, crash. Now we come through into turn 13, almost a 90-degree turn here, coming into turn 14 as well. And then we come through into the final 2 turns of the circuit here in Albert Park, and of course it's turns 15 and 16 with Dayson just utilizing as much of the track as he can here without invalidation as well on that exit of turn 16. And what a lap it was from him. Great stuff, of course, and here's the setup he used to get this one dialed in. We hope you guys will take a look and try it out. Let us know in the comments if it helps you, and of course if this video helped you out at all. We'll see you in our other guides as well as our highlights and streams coming ahead for some league racing action. Be well, guys, and of course, stay fast.
There you go, guys. A little bit of a track guide running up to today's race in Australia. Definitely looks confusing enough to me. Not sure F1 is ever going to be my race game, I can tell you that, as it does look like it could get a little scary. And the track guides are always very fast, though, because, well, the cars are much faster than GT3, right? As we take a look up through today, who we have online so far, a lot of returning folks from last week's race. Obviously, Dan 000 up there with Skyline. Furry Jules is back. Smith. First time I recall seeing Smith in here. That's okay. We will take everyone we can. But Bigelow is on track in his Ferrari as we look to get started here soon. Blixer. Chester's here. The real S. We'll just call him S. Of course, there I am ready to spectate with CRS Ben brought in so far. So hopefully going to get some good racing today. As far as I know, just one race today, comprising both AM and Pro classes for the F1 League. They will all be running together. Obviously, points will be put together separately afterwards. And with that, we will look to get race started here very soon. Of course, starting off with qualifying. Short qual, I believe, lasts 15 minutes. And then a 29-lap race for our drivers today around the course in Australia. as we start going through and just taking a look again at the lineup while we wait. Just a reminder to anyone that joins us typically for GT3 racing on Sundays. Tomorrow, I'm waiting to hear, we needed some more teams for the upcoming endurance. Tomorrow is qualifying only. It's a 30-minute qual, which means I will have that here for a stream. However, it will be a short stream tomorrow, as we will just be clocking that qualification in. 2 drivers per team. 1 driver runs qualifications, so you will not see, you're not going to see everybody on track tomorrow. Each team must pick a driver to run qual. Typically, that is the pro driver of the Pro-Am teams. So we will get a chance to look at that tomorrow, and I'm hoping, with them not participating, that Red Rider or Chief Blaze will be able to join me as well. And I may, because it is just a qualifying session tomorrow and not something directly, we're not watching a race, right? What I may want to do is try a little experiment tomorrow and see if we can't get a second perspective on the race, or at least an ability to have a little picture-in-picture going. I think that might be possible, and it's something I'd like to work on with Chief Blaze. I think he'll be able to help me out with that if he's able to join. He may still be out of town, and that's okay if he is. We'll get it together anyway. But we will certainly be trying to see if that's something we can pull off. Going to jump back to the pre-race screen here in just a second for you guys. I'd like to take a look at something real fast just to ensure we catch everybody right. We want to look. Dan 00 Alpha is also streaming today's race. So again, if we go back here and take a look, multitwitch.tv to allow you to watch as many of the drivers as are streaming that are possible. Right now, I only see Dan 00 Alpha. I know Steadfast is probably still not running, and that's okay with that new baby. And I don't yet see Lay Off My Salt or Huff. I'm not sure if Huff is racing right now either. But Salt typically will stream, and I do not yet see him listed as online. But again, you can use multitwitch.tv to catch as many angles as possible during today's race. And the paddock continuing to fill today. Looking down the list, Sargent has joined us. Salt has joined us. There he is in his McLaren. Sin God jumping in as well, ready to go. And with the 4 p.m. start time, we should be jumping in here very soon. Again, for that short qualification and then a 29-lap race around Australia today. Dan 00 Alpha, thank you so much for that sub, man. I appreciate that. You guys will not see that pop up on screen because, again, during races, all notifications, sound alerts, anything like that, channel point redemptions, those are turned off so we can keep our focus on the drivers. But I do want to thank Dan for that subscription and re-upping for his 2nd month in a row, man. That is fantastic. Thank you so much. Support the channel, and it's going to hopefully allow me to do more and more of this for folks. So thank you again, Dan. And 15 seconds to start, we'll get into qualifying. And like always, the one thing that F1 2021 does not let me do is save my screen settings from race to race or even from qual to race. So the first thing I will need to do is go ahead and see if we can't go ahead and get that set up properly so that we've got all the pertinent information that we need listed on screen for you guys. Hopefully when everyone able to load in today. The one thing in this particular sim I haven't checked on is, I know it's obviously brand new, 2021, right? Is whether or not they've added already the new the new Miami circuit that's currently being built. Let's go ahead and take a look at tires while we're in pit. Telemetry on, lap data on, and let's get that full track map up. And that should help with everything we need on track today. So going through, and I apologize, folks, it's an 18-minute qual for the short. So as we take a look down the list right now, Smith, again, first time I recall seeing him, UCE Bigelow, he is back this week. Chester, CRS Ben, Synagod, Furry Jules. Sargent's back on track, heading out of the pits now. On his first out lap, along with Furry Jules. As we watch everyone slowly making their way out of the pits real quick today. Not a lot of time spent on setup for some of these guys. Salt just now coming out. Blixer's still in there. Skyline already out on his out lap with Dan 00 Alpha. I know Dan typically is one who will sit in the pits for a good little while as we bring up this menu, because I would really prefer not to be in the pod the whole time. There we go. Bigelow opening up on the out lap there. And again, some setup still going on with three drivers still in the pits. However, it looks like everyone except Ben and Sargent are out on soft tires right now for their opening qual. Simpson out in that Red Bull Honda. We watched CRS Ben a little struggle back in Sector 3. Hopefully able to get himself out of the way safely for everybody. Sarge now out on track. On board with Salt now. Outlap clear. And let's take a watch and see how he does. His first flying lap of qualification today. Again, Salt out on those soft tires like most of the rest of the paddock. And we saw strategy come into play a little bit last week. Obviously, some of our drivers had to go into the pits multiple times due to damage, but we saw some folks try and stretch those tires right out, and it worked for them in the right situation, having only needed to change them out once. And Sarge now setting the fastest lap, quickly overtaken by Skyline with a 1:22.4, 0.2 of a second exactly separating the two of them. With Real S and Chester quickly clocking in laps right behind them, with Bigelow following up. And now Salt quickly pushes himself up to the top of the list with our first 121 of the afternoon. Sin God also up in the top two right now with a 122.3, just edging out Skyline. We watch Salt head out again and attempt to clear another fast lap. Simpson no doubt looking to pull that down below that 122 mark, see if he can get up on Salt and take that pole position. However, he will have to first get ahead of Skyline, who has just jumped up to number 2 on us. I've watched 2 of these races now with the F1 guys, and one I have learned is, much like ACC, you need to watch qual right to the very end, because numbers will change all the way through. And just when you think all the drivers have extracted every bit of speed they could out of the vehicles, the next thing you know, you've got a new number 2 or number 3 sitting at the top of the list right at the end of qualification. Sin now able to jump himself up to number 2 with our second 1:21 time of the day. Just barely clearing. Salt's still almost a full second ahead of him. So still quite a bit of time for everybody to make up. But Sinsin certainly looking to pull it up there tight as possible. If Smith now blanked out. Still have yet to learn what that means in this game. So we take a look. CRS Ben out now on his out lap. Blixer and Dan both still sitting in the pits. Neither yet having set time, along with CRS Ben out there on that out lap now. Sarge looks like went back to the pits, made some changes, and is now out on another out lap. Salt and Skyline, along with S and Furry Jules, all back into the pit now. Late joiner with BK Ferrari now jumping in. As we watch Sarge on the outlap here, we'll go on board with him as he comes around to do another flying lap, unless he dives into the pits again, make some more adjustments. And let's jump on board with Sarge now. It looks like he's staying out for a flying lap. That one, a 1:22, right around the same time he had previously. I'm sorry, that's his best lap. That out lap, obviously, coming out of the pit's going to slow you way down. Let's see if he can pick up a little bit. Sarge, one of the faster runners in the league. Right now, Sector 1 down almost half a second from his previous lap. And as we watch on board with him, we see that CRS Ben has pushed him back just one more spot. Yellows in 2 and 3. Hopefully nothing that's going to hold him up on this lap and allow him to get the fastest clock possible. Wide and swung, and that tire is gone, ladies and gentlemen, and Sarge will not be completing that lap and has killed himself for the rest of qual. Unfortunate, because he was pushing, looking pretty good. Again, lay off my Salt and Sinsin now the only 2 running those 1:21 lap times. Skyline and Ben, as we watch Dan 00 Alpha now, having come out of the pits, clocking the third 1:21, taking up second position from Sinsin. And again, by a healthy margin, with Sin only able to push that 1:21.9, Dan and Salt both down at very close to 1:21 in comparison. Sin back out for another outlap, however, and tosses it. Doesn't look like it's bad enough to shut down his qualification, though. looks now like everybody on soft tires. And we will see before the race starts exactly where they landed and what they set their lap times, or their fastest lap times on, of course. So we clock down through. Chester and Furry Jules now both back out on out laps. BK Ferrari looking to set a time still. And Blixer still in the pits at this time with no time set. Bigelow disqualified from the rest of qualification today. Six and a half minutes left in our qualifying session. Looking to set the grid for our 29-lap race in Australia today. We head on board with Skyline. Obviously, engine noises on some vehicles still a problem in F1 2021. As it sounds as though he might be driving an electric vehicle of some sort. While electricity is certainly involved, it does still have a real engine in it. As we watch, and Skyline now able to set that 121 lap time and get himself ahead of Sinsengad as we ride on board. And with Dan and Salt both in the pits, he obviously has opportunity to nudge that up a little higher right now. We'll see if either of those guys come back out. But he was able to clear Sinsen by a little under 1/10 to get up there into third position. And Ben back out on another outlet. Ben not quite able to push it up any higher on that last lap. Chester here. Zoom in and watch Chester come around here, see if he can bring himself up a little higher. That last corner does seem to be playing with people's emotions from time to time. We've seen more than one little slide coming around that final corner onto the start-finish straight. Furry Jules diving back into the pits. Real S. Currently sitting at a 122.7. BK Ferrari behind him by 3 seconds. And I will say, you know, it's interesting to see how close these drivers run during these F1 races because, again, you know, we've got, what, 5 121s now. As we jump back up there to the top, people are getting bumped around all over. Lay Off My Salt still holding pole position with a little over 3 minutes left. Dan Double Alpha right there with him, but Sinsen able to pull himself back up into third with a 121.4, knocking both CRS Ben and Skyline back just a bit. But, you know, so we look here and all these times within 1 second in the top 5. But even down through here with Chester, even Sarge, I know it skips over him, but even Sarge was very close. Furry Jules and the Real S all hitting that 122 mark. So again, the entire top half of our grid, more than the top half of our grid, all within 2 seconds of each other. Always makes for interesting racing. And sometimes some interesting incidents as well. Blixer, our only driver, still out for qual with yet to set a time. Smith unable to do so, and Bigelow disqualified from qualification. Obviously still will be able to race, but unable to set a time puts him at the back of the grid. But Blixer's still out on track looking to set a time for us today. Blixer now back into the pits on us, while Salt, with 1:13 left, comes back out on track for another outlap. We will see if he can tighten it up a little more. Again, right now holding not quite a tenth of a second advantage over Dan Double O Alpha, and that certainly off the wall is not going to get it there for him. We shall see if that's something on an outlap that's going to cause any problems into a new flying lap for him today. On board again with Salt as he starts a new flying lap. I don't think he'll be finishing this one. As Salt is currently out, much like Sarge, Smith, and Bigelow from the rest of qualification today. So that leaves it on Dan Double O Alpha, see if he can make up that tenth of a second. Now running on a flying lap with just under 3 minutes left in an ending qualifying session. Dan coming around on what should be his final lap of qual. And it's going to be tight. And he did shave time, but not quite enough. Lost 3/10 in T1. Gotcha. Yeah, that'll do it to you because it's within a couple hundredths at this point. And as we watch all our drivers now done, Skyline's still out. Take a look here and see if he can bump himself up a little farther. He was able to crack that 121 lap time with a 121.8 earlier. Kills it right there. As the game takes control and puts me on board. So there you have it, folks. There is your lineup for today's Australian Grand Prix. 29 laps. Lay Off My Salt, followed by Dan Double O Alpha. Sin God and CRS Ben making up row 2. Skyline and Chester in row 3, with Sargent and Furry Jules making up row 4. The Real S and BK Ferrari back in row 10, with Smith and Blixer in row 6. And Bigelow, the cheese stands alone in the back for being disqualified during qualification. But we'll still start the race, just do so at the back of the grid. If we jump into the race director real quick, we can see here the tires used throughout everything. And we get kicked out before we get to review it. So unfortunately, it's not something I can control, and I will have to get a little bit faster at. As we start getting ready. 30-second countdown. And just so folks are aware, if you're watching now, next week, if I can get to the calendar here, we are round 3 on the 8th of August in Singapore next Saturday for more F1 racing. The guys will be driving in Singapore next week. And that will be week 3 of the 12-week season we have running through October of 2021 this year. And I will endeavor to bring you every race possible right here. So follow, subscribe if you like it. Keep coming back and keep coming around for all the F1 action, and of course GT3 on Sundays. And let's get in quick while we do our warm-up lap here and make sure that we can get our information the way we need it, since the game likes to turn it off. We have our full track map, good to go. And there's our predicted pit stop strategy powered by AWS. We saw last week most of the drivers did their best to try and make it on a single stop. Not everyone was able to, but they certainly tried. So we will see how strategy plays this week. And since I know for sure that I have no way of trying to remember who's in and who's out, I have a feeling we will be using the race director for that. And as we watch here again, Real S and BK both disqualified. Will be sitting towards the back or we'll get in position at the start of this race. But 13 drivers today. Salt leading it out. Dan right there with him. Looks like a bit of a foggy, dreary day in Australia today. As we come around and get ready to line up for the race start. And again, there's that pit strategy. Showing one stop from softs to mediums around 9 and 11. I have a feeling there's more than one driver that will attempt to make that. But again, last week we saw that that does not always work, and multiple stops ensue. As we look down through, everyone starting out on the softs except for Sarge and Blixer, possibly both wanting to see if they can stretch those tires a little bit further and not have to start quite so early. And green, green, green. We are ready to race on this Saturday in Australia, folks. Thanks for joining us. Into T1. So far, so good. Seeing people spread out, but not seeing any huge issues. Looks like Smith is already out. Very difficult to catch incidents in this game since there's no helicopter cam to pull back during the opening lap. But looks like Blixer and Smith are both out. We will check the incident board when we have an opportunity. But Dan Double Alpha able to get himself ahead of Salt off the line into lap 1. And Simpson and Skyline right there behind him. Got a train of 5 all the way down to Chester. Trying to figure out if it is raining right now. The track certainly looks as though it has slicked up. Again, very hard to tell from this position. Maybe going on board. Yeah, I saw water fly, so again, not knowing enough to know about how the game renders rain, it certainly seems as though the track is wet for these guys today. BK Ferrari able to make a play all the way up into 4th as we see a whole bunch of folks have decided to dive into the pits right now. And make changes as we go to a full safety car. So it looks as though we certainly had some trouble near the beginning of the race here. Seeing Bigelow still bringing up the rear with Smith and Blixer both out and under a safety car. Let's get into our race director real quick and see if we could take a look at incidents. Terminal damage on Blixer right out the gate. Looks like Ben and Sin God had issue. Terminal damage on Smith. Furry Jules collided. I would say that there was something that happened right up front that definitely put everybody into a tailspin. And unfortunately, it was not something we were able to catch. As everyone now sits behind the safety car, waiting to get cut loose and continue this race today. As we see BK and Sin both pulling their first penalties of today's race. Bigelow and Chester both out on hard tires. It looks like S has done so as well. As we sit to wait and see how long this safety car will continue, keeping our drivers at speed around the course. Looks like now as if everyone's pretty well stacked up and we have a full pack. So if the safety car was looking to gather vehicles, it has done its job, and we wait to see when the guys will get cut loose to go back to racing and how many laps we will be in. And as we see here, safety car will go in on this lap and let everyone get back to driving. Drivers attempted to pump a little bit of heat into the tires between a damp track and being under a safety car. Cannot be easy. It certainly looks cloudy as the safety car heads in. As we come in on our last two corners. That's it, folks. We are back to racing on lap 4 of 29. We see here a problem for Chester, who, again, we've seen problems with that corner today, haven't we? A lot, actually. And certainly Chester struggling and has a bit of damage to the vehicle. Dan Double Alpha up front again, opening it up. Salt not giving him much space to play, though, but the two of them together have opened up the gap on Sin. We will go on board with Salt right now as he attempts to chase Dan down. And yes, whoever you are, I want to become famous. You're banned. Thank you. Dan now starting to open up the gap a little bit, just about stretched it out to a full second, and there it goes. Dan right now running away at the front of this race, very quickly opening that gap. Salt, however, continuing to spread the gap behind him to Sinsingod as well. We take a look back. CRS Ben now up on the rear end of Skyline, with Sargent right there with him. And as you see there, Dan setting the fastest lap so far of the race with a 1:23.9. Sinsin now pulling another penalty, pulling a penalty. Sin has dropped off. Certainly had some more trouble, and again with that track damp, we're seeing a lot of movement between these vehicles and a lot of slippery corners. You're good, Red. As we watch Sinsin continue to fall through the rankings here. Let's get back up. We see Ben now able to put himself ahead of Skyline. And Sarge getting ready to do the same, it appears. All three of these guys still running very close. Looks like Sin has now retired from the race. And when given the opportunity, we will check the race director on that. But right now, this is the place to be. Looks like Skyline really trying to open it up. Ben as well on both. Skyline trying to open up on Sarge, and Ben having made the play, looking to just get away from both of them. But Skyline not giving it up. As we see Dan and Salt now both into the pits to make changes. And we are back to safety car in lap 6. The big toss-up with Dan and Salt having gone into the pits very early, only on lap 6. We see now our order has completely changed, and many of our drivers moving up in the rankings for those pit stops. As we go in and take a look at the race director and see exactly what could have happened here. Jump over to our incidents. Sinsin with a terminal damage after that collision. And we see here BK and Sinsin having, looks like we had multiple incidents leading to 5-second time penalties for both, with Sinsin got unfortunately unable to complete the race after those. Leading to our safety car. So not an easy run today in Australia for the F1 guys. Out of 13 racers, 3 already retired. All due to incidents at this point. And terminal damage. It'll be a good time tonight. Well, and that's the thing, right? People, I mean, we've lost 3 drivers, all 3 to terminal damage, and I believe all 3 to incidents. If you know, going through the incident log, we've had incidents between drivers at this point. So, obviously, the damp track conditions wreaking havoc with folks. The unfortunate part being is I've yet to catch any of these incidents, unfortunately. Continue to do my best here, but some of these things happen so quickly that it's really hard to catch them sometimes. So at only 6 laps in, again having already lost 3 drivers. Everyone obviously pushing hard in the damp conditions. Trying to muscle their way up front. And we see our previous leaders of Dan and Salt both in 7th and 8th right now. we'll see how the strategy plays out with who goes in and when, and how quickly they're able to maybe make that climb back to the front. Both of them having changed tires, Dan to the mediums and Salt to the hards. My thoughts being for both of them that they are thinking, well, maybe I can just go the rest of this race at this point and stay out. It does seem like quite a stretch with over 20, with 22 laps left. However, maybe something they're willing to risk if they think they're getting back up front. As we see there, safety car will go in at the end of this lap, and we will be back to racing with CRS Ben leading the charge. Skyline, Sarge, the Real S, and Furry Jules right there in the top 5 with him. And no doubt the safety cars and the damp track are wreaking havoc, not just with the driving itself, but with any kind of pit strategy the drivers may have been considering as they look to try and figure out when to go in and how and everything else. And Dan and Salt may have decided to do it thinking to themselves, well, this is the best time, right? And we are back at it, folks. Live racing with CRS Ben out front, followed closely by Skyline. As we watch in a T1, the slipping's still happening on this damp track in Australia today. But our driver's staying clean so far as we jump back through. Dan and Salt already making moves as Bigelow drops back. Folks running wide. And we have another pileup in the middle of the track. As we see Furry Jules in a severe collision with Dan right there. Let's jump back up front real quick with Ben, but if we take a look at Skyline, Sarge right there on his tail. Wanted to make that play and did not make it happen. Both these guys on medium tires right now. Sarge again, trying to eke it out around Skyline right now, and able to finally make that play and get up there. Dumping back, Bigelow able to get himself around Ferrari. But Skyline not willing to just hand that position over to Sarge. Let's stay up here. BK Ferrari pulling a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. And we see there, Salt and Dan already moving themselves up into 4th and 5th. Obviously part of that due to incidents, right? But 4 lower laps on those tires than everyone else means they're going to stay out a little longer. As we eye in on Skyline, looking at that, I have to assume he is in need of repairs, seeing what I'm seeing here. But Ben, with these two behind him, having to play defense on each other. Chester now pulling another 5-second penalty for pit lane exit. Ben able to open his gap up just a little bit on these two while they play with each other. And Sarge now clearly able to hold that position over Skyline. But as we jump back, Salt and Dan, again in 4th and 5th after the most recent pit stop. Looks like Dan is getting ready. DRS now enabled. Dan is getting ready to try and make that play on Lay Off My Salt. appears we had another incident in Sector 3. And applying pressure now. Play on the inside, side by side, all the way through. A little nudge there, little bumper cars as we come around again, staying side by side. These guys just blazing around track, trying to fight for that job. And Dan able to make that move. Excellent racing right there. Salt, again, not ready to give it up, but gonna have to fight to get it back. That is for sure. As we focus in on Dan now. Dan having to kill off a 2-second gap up to Skyline. But folks, when you talk about clean racing, when you talk about guys that are going head to head, not giving an inch to each other, but making it so that both of them A, can enjoy it, and B, fight as hard as possible. That run right there, side by side, which, if I lost count, was either 4 or 5 corners. That's exactly what we are talking about. And Dan now able to clearly open up in front of Salt, who appears to have had some trouble after the pass, maybe a little frustration, but Dan now closing in on Skyline down to a half a second gap already. Furry Jules and Real S both into the pits, looking to make those tire changes. Chester making some plays as well. Holding back in 7th right now, but still has moved himself back up after taking a pit stop as well. And Dan quickly makes work of Skyline, who it appears just sort of let him by a little bit. Not really sure, but it did appear that way. And Dan now closing the gap again, up on Sarge. Well, Kipster, we're assuming that's because the track is wet. It is a cloudy, foggy day in Australia. And we have seen some water splashes. Again, not knowing this like I do ACC, I don't know if the game actually renders rain or not, but we have seen some water coming off tires, so the assumption is the track is a little damp today. All of our racers pretty well spread out at this point. We'll wait and see what happens with the next set of pit stops. But after 12 laps, let's go ahead and take a walk down through. CRS Ben right now leading the charge, still on those soft tires, 10 laps deep. And Sarge quickly trying to close that gap on him, a 1.3 to a 1.6 between them at any given time around the track. We'll continue to watch and see if that tightens up. Dan 00 Alpha having dropped back into 7th after a pit stop during the second safety car, now able to run his way up into 3rd and is making the chase on Sarge as quickly as he possibly can. And with Sarge, again, it's only a 4 lap difference, but that 4 laps is enough to let Dan jump out if Sarge decides if and when it's time to dive into the pits. Obviously, we know he's going to go at some point. There's no way those mediums last the whole race, but the question is when. And Chester pulls another 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. And again, coming down through the list, Skyline pushing hard for a while, trying to hold Dan off. At one point appeared to just let him on through, but Salt, and we are back to a safety car as it will attempt to gather everyone up. And we have another driver out. Furry Jules has now dropped out of the race. And as we come under safety car, let's go take a look back at race control and pull up that incident down to the bottom of the list. As we take a look here, Furry Jules with a terminal damage did not finish. So again, another terminal damage. That's 4 so far during today's race. That's a lot of terminal damage as we follow these guys around. A lot of collisions we're seeing in here, right? Furry Jules already had a collision with S. Dan with S up near the front of the race, up in lap 8. And we had collisions coming right out the gate in lap 1 with terminal damage to Smith. and Blixer. Blixer does not appear to be involved in any incidents, however, so I have to assume that was self-inflicted. Those are never good, no matter what you do. So again, coming to the top of the order while we're under safety car here in lap now 13. CRS Ben, again leading the charge, heading now into the pits, decides safety car is a great time to change tires. That'll bump Sarge up front, probably change some other positions around as we walk through here. So that does put Sarge, who was in second, now running in first, and it appears he is staying out behind that safety car. Dan 00 Alpha now back up to second after, again, the second safety car pit stop put him back into seventh. And I don't know what is going on, except that the timing screen's all jacked up. Oh, Dan headed back into the pits as well. See, all these guys jump in on me when I'm not paying attention. All now coming out on mediums. So again, Sarge staying out for now. CRS Ben in second. Dan 00 Alpha now in third after a quick pit stop to change tires again. Coming out with 0 laps burned in on all those mediums. Skyline, same thing. Took the opportunity to change those tires. The thought being, I'm willing to bet the thought is, I do not have to stop again for the rest of this race. Bigelow currently sitting in 5th position, 12 laps on those tires right now, so we may see him dive soon. And Salt back into 6th after an 8th place come out from pits after the second safety car. Had a great run with Dan 00 Alpha and lost the position to him after a really strong fight for about 5 corners, and then Dan able to run away and get ahead of Skyline as well. BK Ferrari number 7. Real S still racing in 8th, and Chester still out there 1 lap on those mediums in 9th position. And as you can see, we have had 4 drivers today dropped from the race due to terminal damage. Every one of them due to terminal damage. So a wet track certainly playing havoc with everybody today from the number of incidents we saw listed in race control. As we wait and see here, looks as though safety car is staying out at least 1 more lap. As we mentioned earlier, a damp track coupled with a cloudy sky coupled with safety car means keeping heat in those tires is not going to be any kind of easy feat for any of these guys. And, you know, I don't care if it's sim or if it is the real world racing. At some point, when does a safety car actually make your problems worse because you keep putting folks in let's call it less than optimal conditions by sucking the heat right out of those tires? Right about in here, there we go, safety car in on this lap, so we will get back to full speed racing with just about half the race gone. 3 safety cars already. And again, Sarge and Bigelow, the only 2 to this point to not have pitted recently. Obviously both have been in at some point with only 13 laps on those tires, but neither one of them has been real recent. Everyone else out on what are relatively fresh tires after only 1 to maybe 4 laps. So again, we're going to have to see exactly how that opens and changes things. But Sarge leading the charge as we go off to a green track again. Salt already making the move on Bigelow back there. We see Ben with a little slip coming out of that corner. Again, as this track just wreaks havoc with these guys today. And we already have an incident in Sector 1 with a yellow flag. Salt already looking to make the moves, and somebody is off track in the back. BK Ferrari struggling to keep control of the vehicle right now, lost a bunch of time. And Salt has made the play, but goes wide on Skyline. Jumping back, Chester goes around the outside and able to pick up a position from the Real S. Try and get up here up front. Dan makes the play on Ben. Able to get himself back into P2 right now. Now if I'm Dan, I think I'm a very happy guy right now to where I can sit and play defense for a little bit. Sarge is going to have to pit. I really think he's going to have to. We've seen nobody stretch these tires for an entire race. BK Ferrari another 5 seconds in the pit lane. Jump back, taking a look. Always hard to keep these guys separated because they're in the exact same vehicle, but lay off my Salt. Bigelow also another 5-second penalty. Now putting himself back into third. Ben only half a second back off Sarge right now. Has been closing that gap the entire time. Another yellow flying in Sector 1. And now Sector 2. Salt and Ben both opening up quite a bit. Salt now getting up on the back of Dan. Dan, no doubt hoping that Sarge will just head into the pit so he doesn't have to play too hard here. And Dan wants to make the move to the inside. And here we go. Dan squeaking by, able to get himself out in front of Sarge just like that. As we go on board with Sarge for just a bit here. Dan just running away with it now. Already opening that gap to over 8/10. And no doubt will continue to do so as he pulls away. Lay off my Salt, however, is closing his gap. Sarge no doubt struggling with those tires, 16 laps deep, while these guys are on what are basically fresh mediums right now, still only 4 laps in. Salt now applying pressure. There was an incident last week between these two. Slightly different situation, obviously different track. Let's see how we all play this week in the Australian sand. As Sarge dives into the pits, letting Salt take up P2. As we get on right on with Skyline, up on the back of now CRS Ben. Ben not quite ready to give it up though, pulling ahead once again. put these guys on tires that I don't see them wanting to change before the end of this race. Sarge now throwing the sauce back on with only 10 laps left. As we look, Dan continuing to pull ahead of Salt at this point. And both of them, again, getting quite a good bit ahead on Ben with over a 3-second gap now between them. So with only 9 laps left, let's take another quick look, folks. Don't forget, 4 of our 13 racers today out with terminal damage. This wet track in Australia causing problems for all kinds of folks today. Along with penalties galore. Not quite as bad as last week's race when it comes to penalties, however. Dan Double Alpha right now leading the charge. 6 laps in on those medium compound tires. More than likely will not be dropping back to those pits. Lay off my Salt, number 2. And again, we see, looking at these two, pitted early, right? Pitted during that second safety car when we were about, I think, 5 or 6 laps in. No, it had to be more than that. I apologize. I'd have to go back and look, and I'm not going to open that right now. Real S with a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. But Dan Double Alpha, when they pitted last, both dropped to 7th and 8th. With Salt, respectively. Dan and Salt both dropping back through, but with that, making that smart move, able to get themselves between that and good racing back up into the 1 or 2 where they stood before that safety car. And we see Sargent has just set another fastest lap at a 1:23.6. Walking back through, CRS Ben now over 3, almost 4 seconds off the pace. Lay off my Salt, with Skyline trying to close that gap. Chester here up into 5th. We'll see. He's running 7 seconds ahead of Sarge, but Sarge is on cleaner tires, and with that soft compound, we'll see if it makes any difference for him. He's able to close that up. BK Ferrari, who we saw struggle earlier, still out on track, still running. Hasn't put himself in a position where he was unable. And it looks like Salt now, lay off my Salt, has now thrown himself off course with terminal damage. There he is. And with no other close gaps, folks, we're going to go into race control real quick, or race director, and just take a look to see what that incident was, if that was himself or whether or not there was a collision. No collision. Terminal damage only. So Salt throws himself, and again, we said it earlier, this wet track is playing hell with everybody today. That's now 5 drivers out of 13 off track. Moving Skyline. Ben Skyline moves everybody up a position, but Ben now moved up 12 seconds off of Dan's pace. Dan now able to sit back and try and just cruise to a victory here today. With only 7 laps left as we watch all 4 drivers now going into the pits, everybody throwing those soft compound tires on, but able to hold position due to the gap. Ben and Skyline both back out on track. Chester here, Sarge both into the pits. Now Sarge, that seems odd. Sarge just went in the pits, so to see him going back in again, I'm not sure why, except again, we have another safety car. I guess that's a good reason, isn't it? We are down to 8 drivers left today. 7 laps remaining. Again, this being our 4th safety car for today. And if we again just go into the race director, take a quick look, folks, so we can see here. Right off the bat in lap 1, terminal damage with Blixer. There's another one for If Smith. But again, both of these look to be, because I'm not seeing collisions. Oh, right there, Furry Jules with If Smith. So again, a DNF for Smith, given terminal damage, looks to be after a collision with Furry Jules. We had multiple collisions in lap 1, all the way down through here. A conflagration, if you will. Severe collision from Sinsin with BK Ferrari. And back and forth, they obviously whopped each other a couple times there with multiple 5-second penalties flying. Sinsin then out with terminal damage there. Furry Jules pulls himself a drive-through for a severe collision with the Real S. Even Dan himself, the man leading our race right now, is not immune to what's going on today. But obviously the Real S having some issues out there. A couple more warnings, but again we see here as we come down, terminal damage on Furry Jules. I don't see anything there that would call out that it wasn't self-inflicted. Chester here with collisions with Bigelow. Just all over. And now Salt with a DNF due to terminal damage. All over. Just a rough race for these guys. And there we see Skyline pulling another 5-second penalty for a severe collision with Chester. But again, for the last few laps of this race, everybody's going to be bunched up. We will see what that causes. Dan was sitting on a very, very nice gap over CRS Ben and had every opportunity to cruise to victory with over a 12-second gap that was only widening. And now we'll have Ben and Skyline and everybody right up behind him. And now the Real S is out of today's race. And then there were 7. At this point, folks, we've basically lost half the grid to terminal damage. And near as I can tell, Salt dropped during the safety car. And we've got just a few seconds here as the safety car is going in on this lap. Let's scroll back here to the bottom. The Real S, terminal damage. Exceeded track limits, multiple warnings. I mean, if we come up here, terminal damage for Salt is what brought on this safety car, right? The Real S lost this under safety car. Under safety car. And again, we are now down to only 7 of 13 drivers remaining. And as I said, we've basically lost half the grid. Safety car is in. We are back on with Dan Double O Alpha, who already has opened it up and given himself a 2-second gap over Ben. So we've got a little bit of clearance here, but Skyline, Ben himself not able to open up as wide a gap, and now has Skyline to contend with. Coming around on lap 24 of 29. Not a lot of time to make your play as Chester is back into the pits after only 9 laps on those tires. Skyline sticking right with him. Skyline Ben can be costly. Yeah. We shall see. As the sun comes out in Australia today, right here for the end of the race. Dan finally breaking that race lap down below 123 with a 122.2. And this is the race right now with Skyline again continuing to apply pressure to Ben. And Ben getting multiple warnings now with a 3-second penalty. And we are back to a safety car. Who'd we lose? We lost Chester. We lost Chester. now BK Ferrari pulling a drive-through for speeding over safety car. Let's go again into our race director as the drivers collect behind that safety car. Spent a lot of time in here today. Oh, let's see. Chester here. Terminal damage. And again, I see no incident that points to... an incident. Another self-inflicted. Guys are pushing hard today. Maybe overdriving a little bit in considering the dampness of the track. And even Dan, we're watching as he flounders around a little bit. In some of these corners. Skyline clearing, looks like to be clearing that drive-through. And if Ben, as you said, has pulled one as well, we will see if he gets that clear. But Skyline, BK, and Bigelow all into the pits. Bigelow pulling another penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Ben now lined up behind Dan and the safety car. And Ben the only one not to clear a penalty at this point. But Sarge now pumping himself back up into third. And once again, Dan, who, you know, has had, I think, I want to say now 2 or 3. I mean, this is our 5th safety car this race, right? Dan's had 2 or 3 opportunities to be multiple, as in tens of seconds ahead of P2, and simply needed to cruise to the end of the race, right? Just needed to drive, stay on the track, and continue to push a little bit just to maintain those lap times. And now again, we'll have to defend his position, which, you know, not a bad thing. It makes for good racing, right? But certainly frustrating when you're stretching yourself out like that, getting ahead, staying ahead, even coming back from behind, and then having that gap reduced on you to nothing once again. So don't forget, folks, we will be back next Saturday, round 3 of season 4 in Singapore on the 8th of August to watch these guys run again. Hopefully with a little more luck. And now BK Ferrari with a DNF. As we go and take a quick look, did he just decide to give up, or did he have terminal damage as well? Again, BK Ferrari now. Terminal damage. Was that out of frustration, or I don't know. It certainly appears as though well over half of our grid today has been taken out, all due to terminal damage. Some due to incidents, obviously, that will be reviewed by the stewards over the Discord, but some completely self-inflicted at this point. And for anybody watching, if you do like F1 racing, if you do enjoy GT3 on Xbox or PC, I encourage you to follow that Discord link. Come over and join Green Hell Racing Discord server. Bring yourselves over. Get in on some racing. We all love it. It's fun. We'll see if this should be our last lap with safety car. It appears as though the track is clear. And that will give us 2 whole laps. Yeah, you're done. Out of here. Safety car in on this lap, as we said. Wait, what? I banned Stream Elements. No, I didn't. I apologize, guys. I have to be careful here because the thing I just saw follow can be a problem. So I do have to be careful. We are back to racing with only 2 laps left. Hopefully we can stay clear of another safety car. Apologize, guys, for the distraction. I had no choice there real quick. I had to take care of something. So that said, let's finish this up. Dan Double O Alpha up front. We are down to 5 drivers. Bigelow with another 3-second penalty as he attempts to push here at the end. CRS Ben unable to match Dan's pace, already a full second back. Sarge trying to see if he can push himself up, but to the point in the chat, I don't know that he needs to, right? With a close gap and the penalty that Ben is sitting on, that should be enough for Sarge to claim P2 in today's race. A hard-fought one, definitely a hard-fought one that will not, I'm sure a lot of these drivers will not forget anytime soon. Up here to watch Dan come around in sector 2. Sarge now trying to keep that gap tight right up until the end and put pressure on Ben. Skyline close behind. As we watch around the final 2 corners. Dan able to close it. CRS Ben getting bumped all the way to 4th for his penalty as the game takes over on of its own volition and doesn't let me do what I want to do. We will take a quick look here at the end. Bigelow, the driver of the day according to the game. So take a look. There is your closing for today's Australian Grand Prix. Dan Double Alpha running away with it, able to keep himself up there even after dropping down to number 7 at one point. Sarge jumping to number 2 over Skyline and Ben, or I'm sorry, over Ben after that penalty was served, with Skyline able to do the same into number 3. Ben, Bigelow both able to finish. Everyone else today with a DNF. There's your grid, folks, and that's where it ends. So thank you so much for joining. Again, don't forget, people, party people, you want to come back next week? I encourage you to come back next week because we are back for the next race, which will take place in Singapore next Saturday, and I will get the time as soon as possible for everyone. As well, tomorrow, qualification for the Green Hell Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione qualification for our 4 hours at Kailami, which will take place next Sunday. So thank you all for joining me. I appreciate every one of you being here. I need to go clean up a mess right now because someone tried to follow the channel that shouldn't have done it. And so with that, I am going to leave you all. But again, thank you so much for joining, folks. Appreciate it, and I know the drivers do as well. And for all the Green Hell guys, this will be posted to YouTube as soon as possible, so that the drivers are able to go in and watch afterwards if they're unable to pick it up on the stream. Come on back for all of the great racing. Season 4, we're going to continue every Saturday now through October. And again, next week kicks off with Singapore. Thanks so much, guys. See you next week.